The sky above the neutral asteroid base was quiet, but tension filled the air like a storm waiting to break. The war between humans and the Varelians had paused for repairs and diplomacy. But no one truly believed it would last. Leo, a young human engineer, stepped off the shuttle carrying his tool bag and a tired sigh. He had been sent to fix broken communication towers on the edge of the base, far from the main war zones. It was supposed to be a peaceful assignment, but peace was always a fragile thing in the galaxy. As he walked through the halls, he noticed something strange. Varelian workers moved quietly around the base, some still wearing cuffs on their wrists, symbols of past slavery. Among them, one stood out. She was tall, with soft silver skin and glowing blue eyes that seemed to hide 1,000 stories. Her black uniform was plain, but the way she held herself was different, confident, proud, maybe even royal. Leo met her by accident in the repair bay. He was checking power levels when she leaned over and said, "You humans always break things, don't you?" Leo looked up, surprised. "And you aliens always sneak up on people." She laughed, a real laugh, light and teasing. "Name's Zira. Or at least that's what they call me here." Leo extended a hand. "Leo." She looked at his hand like it was some strange creature, then shook it awkwardly. "You're not like the others," she said. "Most humans don't talk to me unless it's an order." Leo smiled. "I talk to anyone who laughs like that." That night, the two met again in the mess hall, sitting at the same corner table. Zira poked at her food, wrinkling her nose. "How do you eat this glue?" Leo chuckled. "Takes practice." After a few quiet moments, Zira tilted her head and asked, "Wanna play a game?" Leo raised an eyebrow. "What kind of game?" "A guessing game," she said with a smirk. "Guess my real name, and I'll marry you." Leo nearly choked on his food. "What?" Zira laughed so loud the people at the next table turned to look. "I'm joking," she said between giggles. "Maybe." Leo wiped his mouth and grinned. "All right, challenge accepted, Princess Zira." Her smile froze for a second at that word. "Princess." But then she recovered. "Wrong guess, try again later." After dinner, Leo walked through the lower corridors, heading back to his quarters. As he passed the storage bay, he heard something. A soft sound, almost like crying. He paused, peeking inside quietly. There in the corner, Zira sat alone with her knees pulled up to her chest. She rocked slightly, whispering names under her breath. Izari, Lyrian, Felines. Names that didn't sound like part of any known alien registry. Leo stepped back silently, heart heavy. The laughing girl from dinner was now someone completely different, haunted, broken. He didn't understand what those names meant, but he knew one thing for sure. That joke she made wasn't a joke at all. The next day, Leo tried to act normal. He found her in the power control room, tightening a panel. "You okay?" he asked gently. She didn't look at him. "Why wouldn't I be?" He sat nearby and began checking wires. "I think I'll guess again," he said casually. "How about Izari?" Her hands stopped moving, her shoulders tensed. Slowly, she turned to face him, eyes wide, color draining from her face. "Where did you hear that name?" she whispered, voice trembling. Leo pretended to shrug. "Lucky guess." She stood up fast and grabbed his arm, dragging him into a side room. "Never speak that name again," she hissed, eyes glowing brighter. "Not here, not anywhere." Leo pulled his arm free, shocked. "What's going on, Zira?" She stepped back, taking a deep breath. "You don't know what you're playing with, human." Then, with a cold voice, she said, "Forget the game, forget my name." And just like that, she walked away, leaving Leo alone with 100 questions burning in his mind. The joke was never just a joke. The bet was never just for fun. And the name he had guessed might be the key to something far more dangerous than he ever imagined. Zira didn't show up the next morning, not at breakfast, not in the repair rooms. Leo checked the places she usually visited, the loading dock, the backup generator room, even the old tower she liked to climb. But she was nowhere. The name he had guessed still echoed in his head, Izari. He didn't know what it meant, not exactly. But the way she had reacted made it clear it wasn't just a name. It was a secret. Later that afternoon, she finally appeared in the training hall, casually watching two alien guards spar. Her arms were folded, her back against the wall, but her eyes were scanning everything. When she saw Leo step in, her smile returned, but it wasn't the same. This time, it was sharper, colder, like a mask made of glass. "So," she said with a fake laugh, "here comes the human genius with the lucky mouth." Leo walked up slowly, keeping his voice low. "You don't have to pretend, Zira, or should I say, Izari." She didn't flinch this time, only looked at him like a knife ready to strike. "You really want to die here," she whispered, "because that's how you die." Leo stepped closer. "Who are you hiding from?" She glanced at the guards, then pulled him into a side hall. "You think this place is neutral," she whispered. "You think just because there's no shooting, there's no danger." Leo leaned in, whispering back, "Tell me the truth then. Help me understand." Zira turned her face away, her voice quiet and tired. "They called me Zira when I was taken as a child. Beaten, trained to forget who I was. But I didn't forget." She added bitterly, "Not fully." Leo felt a cold shiver down his spine. "You were royalty," he said slowly, "weren't you?" She nodded once, her eyes locked on his. "Princess Izari of House Thelines, second daughter of the lighted crown," she said like it was poison. "But now that crown is dust." Leo stared at her, unable to speak. He had heard stories about an alien royal family wiped out during a brutal civil war. No survivors, they said, no mercy. And yet, here she was, alive, hiding in plain sight on a human-controlled station. "Why joke about it then?" he asked finally. "The marriage bet." Zira gave a dry laugh. "Because no one would ever guess, and no one ever takes me seriously." "But you," she said, stepping closer. "You looked me in the eyes and guessed it like it was nothing." Leo smiled slightly. "Well, your laugh was too honest for someone fake." Her expression softened, but only for a moment. Then she looked past him, toward the ceiling, as if listening to something. "Do you know what happens if my name gets out?" she asked. "I'm not just a missing royal. I'm a walking target. Rebel groups want me dead because of who I was born as." She continued, "Others want to use me to claim power. And some, the worst of all, want to sell me to the highest bidder." Leo's stomach turned. "You've been carrying all that alone," Zira nodded. "It's safer that way, but..." Leo wasn't convinced. "You're not safe here either," he said. "You said someone might have heard me say your name." She gave a slow nod, her voice low and serious. "There are watchers on this station, Leo, some disguised as crew, some just waiting for orders." Just then, a red warning light blinked above the corridor. An automated voice said, "Security check in Sector C. All non-essential personnel return to quarters." Zira's face went pale. "That's them," she whispered. "It's starting." She looked at him hard. "You have two choices now. Walk away. Forget you ever met me. Or stay close and risk everything." Leo didn't hesitate. "I'm not leaving you," he said firmly. "I already guessed your name, didn't I?" Zira stared at him for a long moment, her eyes glistening. Then, for the first time, her smile was real soft, sad, grateful. "You're either brave or very stupid," she murmured. "Maybe both," Leo said with a smirk. "But I'm not going anywhere." Footsteps echoed down the far corridor, heavy boots. Moving with purpose, Zira took a deep breath, grabbed his hand, and pulled him toward the emergency tunnels. "We need to disappear," she said. Right now, as they vanished into the shadows, Leo realized something. He had stepped into something much bigger than himself, and the joke she made, this silly marriage bet, had become something dangerous, something real. The emergency tunnel was dark and cold, with only flickering blue lights lining the walls. Zira moved fast, her steps silent and precise like someone who had done this before. Leo followed closely, heart pounding, hand still holding hers. He didn't ask where they were going, he trusted her. even if everything around them screamed danger. After 10 minutes of crawling through tight passageways and ducking under old pipes, they stopped in front of a sealed metal door. Zira tapped the control panel quickly, then pressed her palm against a hidden scanner. The door slid open, with a hiss, revealing a room filled with dusty consoles, broken screens, and cables hanging like vines. "This place hasn't been used in years," Leo said, looking around. Zira nodded. "It's part of the original base. From before the war, before the humans arrived." She walked to one of the consoles and started typing. "I used to sneak here as a janitor," she added with a small smirk. No one cared where a slave girl wandered. Leo leaned over her shoulder, watching the screen light up. "What are we looking for?" he asked. Zira's fingers moved fast. "Proof," she whispered, "that I'm who I say I am." She tapped into the base's hidden archive system, buried deep beneath layers of restricted files. "Only high clearance officers know these even exist," she said. "But I found them long ago, and I kept quiet." Lines of data scrolled across the screen, names, dates, star systems. None of it made sense to Leo. Then a file popped up labeled, Royal House of Thelina's Final Log. Zira's hand paused above the enter key, her voice trembling. "I haven't opened this in 10 years, she said. "Not since. Not since my family disappeared." Leo placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to do this alone anymore." Zira took a deep breath, then pressed the key. The screen flickered, then showed a holographic image, a tall alien. Man in gold robes, his face proud but tired. Leo recognized the royal crest on his chest. It matched the strange pendant Zira always wore beneath her uniform. The man spoke, voice heavy with sorrow. "If you are watching this, then the house of Thelines has fallen," he said. "My daughter Izari. You must hide, survive, and one day return." Zira turned away from the screen, biting her lip, tears in her eyes. Leo watched in silence, feeling the weight of the moment crash over them both. The message ended with a name, a hidden coordinate, and a warning. "Trust no counsel, no alliance. Only those who call you by your true name." Zira wiped her eyes quickly, trying to stay strong. "That's why I said it," she whispered. "The bet, the game. I needed to know if someone could see past the disguise." Leo finally understood. It wasn't just a test. It was her last hope of finding someone who believed her, someone who wouldn't betray her. And now that person was him. Suddenly, the screen glitched, and a new alert popped up: unauthorized access detected, tracking activated. Zira's eyes widened. "They found us." Leo looked around. "We have to go." But Zira hesitated. "Wait, I need to copy this." She grabbed the small data chip, shoved it into the port, and transferred the files. A loud banging echoed from the tunnel outside. Boots, many of them. Zira pulled the chip free and stuffed it into Leo's pocket. "If they catch us, don't let them get this," she said urgently. "It's our only proof and our only chance." The door burst open as they ran through the opposite passage. Lasers flashed past them, barely missing. Zira ducked and rolled behind a support beam. Pulling Leo down beside her, she pulled a small pulse grenade from her boot and tossed it into the tunnel. Boom, sparks flew and the hallway filled with smoke. They ran again, coughing, eyes stinging, back through the twisting metal hallways, into a part of the base Leo didn't recognize. Finally, they slipped behind an old storage container. Gasping for air for a few moments, all was silent. Then Leo looked at her and said, "We need help." Zira nodded. "But we can't trust the station crew, not anymore." Leo thought for a moment, then said, "I know someone who owes me a favor." "A pilot," he added. "Smuggler type, not part of any government." Zira gave a tired smile. "Sounds like someone I'd get along with." She looked at him seriously. "You know what you've stepped into?" "Right," Leo nodded slowly. "I do." "You're not scared?" she asked. "I'm terrified," he admitted. "But I'm still here." Zira touched the chip in his pocket. Then we keep moving until the whole galaxy knows the truth. She reached out and took his hand again, not because she had to, but because she wanted to, and for the first time in years, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone anymore. They waited in the shadows for over an hour, not moving, not speaking. The smoke from the pulse grenade had cleared, but the base was no longer quiet. Security patrols now roamed in teams, scanning each corridor with glowing visors and energy rifles ready. Zira pressed her ear to the wall, listening to every footstep, every mechanical beep. Leo sat beside her, clutching the data chip she had trusted him with. "We can't stay here," he whispered. Zira nodded slowly. "I know, but we can't run without a plan." Leo looked around the rusted storage room, his voice low. "Then let's make one." Zira turned toward him, her eyes sharp. "There's a ship docked in Hangar 9, she said. "Cargo hauler, unregistered, owned by an old contact of mine." Leo blinked. "You have a contact here." "Head," she corrected. "I don't know if he's still loyal." Leo raised an eyebrow. "Another joke." Zira's lips curved slightly. "This one might cost us our lives." Before they moved, Zira reached into her jacket and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. She handed it to Leo carefully. Inside was a small pendant, glowing faint blue, shaped like a star with 3 broken wings. Leo touched it gently. "What is this?" "My sigil," she said. "The royal crest of House Thelinis." Leo stared at it, then looked up. "You're giving it to me." "I'm giving it to someone I trust," she said firmly. "If I'm caught, that chip and this crest are proof of who I am." Leo closed the cloth slowly and tucked it into his jacket next to the chip. For the first time, Zira looked vulnerable. Her smile faded. Her shoulders slumped just slightly. "They tried to break me," she whispered. "Years of silence, of hiding, pretending I was nothing. Even when I laughed," she said, voice shaking. "It wasn't real, it was survival." Leo wanted to say something, but no words felt right, so instead, he sat beside her in silence, offering her presence instead of pity. And for Zira, that was more than enough. They left the storage room once the patrol passed, moving through back passages, maintenance ladders, and air shafts. They made their way toward Hangar 9. Every hallway was a risk. Every sound made their hearts race. Once, they had to duck behind a supply rack as 2 guards marched by. Another time, a scanner passed over them, but Zira had already pulled Leo into a radiation chamber. Its interference saved them. Finally, they reached a narrow crawl space just above the hangar's entrance. Below them, the cargo hauler sat like a sleeping beast, rusted, old, but intact. Zira pointed to a short man arguing with a droid, his voice echoing through the bay. "That's Brooke," she said. "Half Varg, half trouble." Leo gave her a look. "And we trust him. We hope he's still greedy," she replied. "Because greed is safer than loyalty sometimes." They climbed down quietly and made their way to Brooke's ship. Sticking to the shadows, when Brooke saw her, his eyes widened, then narrowed. "Zira," he grunted. "Or should I say, Izari?" Zira froze, one hand going to her belt where no weapon waited. Brooke chuckled. "Relax, princess. I ain't stupid. But you showing your face here? That's suicide." Leo stepped forward. "We need a ride." Brooke laughed. "I figured." He looked at Zira again, more curious than hostile. "Thought you were dead," he said. "They said the whole royal family got wiped." Zira lifted her chin. "I survived." Brooke nodded, then spat on the floor. "Well, I always said your people were too stubborn to die easy." He scratched his chin. "I'll help you, but I want something in return." Zira raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess, credits." "No," he said. "I want the truth." Zira hesitated, then slowly told him everything: her escape, her fake name, her years hiding as a mechanic. Brooke listened, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he nodded once. "All right," he said. "You got yourself a ride." They boarded his ship quickly, keeping the lights low inside. The hauler was messy but functional. Wires hung from the ceiling, and the pilot seat had burn marks on it. Brooke started the engines while Leo and Zira secured the cabin. Suddenly, a voice blared over the station intercom. All crew, alert trader. Azari has been sighted. Do not engage alone. Lockdown active. Zira looked at Leo, her voice cold and steady. We're out of time. Leo tightened the straps across his chest. Then let's fly. Brooke smacked the controls, and the ship rumbled to life. Guards rushed into the hangar, but it was too late. The hauler lifted off the ground, metal doors tearing as it broke through the emergency seal. The stars opened wide before them as they escaped into space. Behind them, the asteroid base shrank. Alarms still ringing. Ahead, freedom waited. But so did war. Zira looked at Leo, her voice soft but fierce. I won't hide anymore, she said. Not in chains, not in silence. Leo nodded. We're going to make the galaxy remember your name. The stars stretched around them like an ocean of fire and ice. Brooke's cargo hauler rumbled through space, engines groaning under pressure. Inside, Leo checked the systems nervously while Zira stood by the small window, watching the asteroid base vanish behind them. We made it, he said, breathing hard. Zira didn't answer, her eyes fixed on the stars. No, she whispered. Not yet. Brooke's voice came through the comms. We got company. Leo rushed to the cockpit. How fast? Fast enough, Brooke said, pointing at a blinking red dot on the screen. 2 patrol ships just launched from the base military class. They'll catch us in 15 minutes. Zira joined them, her face calm but serious. We need to lose them before we reach the jump gate. Leo looked at the nav system. Gate's locked to government codes. We can't use it unless we spoof an ID. Zira turned to Brooke. Do you still have that black market scrambler? You stole from the Darwin Syndicate. Brooke looked insulted. Borrowed, not stole. Do you have it? She repeated. He sighed and pulled out a dusty metal box from under the control panel. Only works once. Zira grabbed it. Once is all we need. Leo connected the device to the console, wires sparking as he forced the signal through. The countdown to the jump gate blinked on screen 10 minutes away. Behind them, the enemy ships closed in, now visible on the rear cam, sleek, silver, and deadly. Let's make this harder for them, Brooke said with a grin, pulling a lever. The hauler dropped a trail of charged metal scrap, creating an interference field. The lead enemy ship jerked violently, trying to dodge. Bought us a minute, Brooke said. Maybe 2, in the back. Zira opened a small locker and pulled out a dusty rifle. Leo looked back. What are you doing? If they board us, I won't be taken alive, she said. Calmly, Leo swallowed. You won't have to fight alone. She glanced at him, a flicker of emotion in her eyes. You're really not going to leave, are you? Not a chance, he replied. You're stuck with me, remember? Suddenly, a blast rocked the ship. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Direct hit, Brooke shouted. Shields down to 20%. Zira rushed to the back and activated a manual turret port, the panel sliding open to reveal a small gunner station. I'll hold them off, she said, climbing in. Leo took her place at the nav console. Heart racing. He had trained as an engineer, not a pilot, not a hero, but today, none of that mattered. Zira fired back with deadly focus, energy blasts tearing through the blackness. One enemy ship banked left to avoid the fire. The other continued forward, trying to disable the engines. Leo shouted over the noise. Brooke, any chance you've got something bigger back there? Brooke cackled. You read my mind. He hit a red button on the dashboard, and a missile launcher unfolded from under the hauler's belly. Say goodnight, Brooke whispered, launching the missile. The blast was enormous. The enemy ship lit up like a sunburst and shattered into pieces, but the shockwave hit them too, tossing the hauler sideways. Zira tumbled in the gunner seat. Leo hit the wall, alarms blaring all around them. 5 minutes to jump gate, Leo shouted, grabbing the controls. Stabilizing now, Brooke grunted, wiping blood from his forehead. Zira returned to the cockpit. Her hands scraped, her voice breathless. "We've got to make that jump," Leo nodded. "I'll boost the engines past safe levels. It might fry the core." "Do it," Zira said without hesitation. He opened the override panel, linked 3 wires, and pressed both hands to the throttle. The hauler screamed forward, metal groaning. Sparks falling from the ceiling like rain. Ahead, the jump gate flickered to life. The scrambler had worked, opening the portal just long enough. "Brace for impact," Leo called out. As the final enemy ship fired a last desperate shot, the hauler shot into the gate, vanishing in a flash of white light. Silence. They came out the other side into open. Empty space. No pursuit. No alarms. Just stars. The tension broke, and Leo collapsed into the chair, breathing heavy. Brooke leaned back, laughing. "You two are going to get me killed one day." Zira stood quietly, her hands trembling. Then she looked at Leo and smiled, not her teasing grin, but something real, warm, tired. "You saved me," she said softly. "No," Leo replied. "We saved each other." The countdown was over, but the journey wasn't. The galaxy knew nothing of what had just happened. But soon, they would. The stolen ship, the royal crest, and the truth about Princess Azari were now safe, and the ones who tried to erase her had failed. They floated in space, far from war zones, far from the asteroid base. Silence filled the cargo hauler, except for the soft hum of backup systems. Leo leaned against the wall near the cockpit, trying to calm his breathing. Zira sat across from him, her back against a crate, staring at the small pendant in her hand. The royal crest of House Thelinis glowed faint blue, lighting up her tired face. Brooke was busy repairing a blown panel near the engine core, muttering curses in 4 languages. "I swear, this ship's gonna fall apart if I sneeze," he grunted. Zira didn't laugh this time. She just kept staring at the pendant, her fingers tracing its edges over and over. Leo finally spoke. "You okay?" Zira looked up slowly. "I don't know what okay means anymore." He sat beside her, careful not to speak too fast. "We made it out. We have the chip, the crest, and the truth." She nodded slowly. "But what now?" Leo shrugged. "We tell someone who can help, someone with power, maybe the Interstellar Assembly." Zira let out a bitter chuckle. "They're the ones who signed the treaty that erased my name." Leo tilted his head. "Then we show them what they tried to hide." For a while, there was only silence, the kind that feels heavy. Then Zira whispered, "Do you remember what you said when we first met?" Leo blinked. "You mean the name bet?" She nodded. "You guessed it, just like that, Izari." Leo smiled. "Honestly, it just felt right." Zira turned to him, her eyes intense. "In my culture, names aren't just labels. They hold power." Leo raised an eyebrow. "Power like what?" "Power like binding," she said softly. "If someone says your true name with intent, especially in danger, it creates a bond." Leo stared at her. "What kind of bond?" Zira hesitated, her voice barely above a whisper. "A soul bond." His mouth opened, but no words came out. Zira looked away, her fingers gripping the pendant tightly. "I didn't tell you before because I didn't think it could happen, not with a human. But when you spoke my name, and then protected me, kept my secret, risked your life." She turned to face him again. Something changed. Leo sat still, feeling the air between them shift. "So, what does that mean?" he asked carefully. Zira's voice was steady. "Now, it means whether we like it or not, we're connected. Bound," she added. "Not by law, not by choice, but by spirit." Leo laughed awkwardly. "So, you're saying I accidentally proposed to an alien princess?" Zira smiled faintly. "And I accidentally accepted." They both laughed this time, softly, tiredly. But beneath the laughter, there was something else. Acceptance, maybe even comfort. Brooke's voice interrupted. "I hate to break up the bonding ceremony. Lovebirds, but we got a new problem." They stood quickly and rushed to the cockpit. Brooke pointed to the comm screen. "We've been hailed," on the screen. A message blinked: private channel royal sympathizer. Leo and Zira exchanged a glance. "Open it," she said. The screen lit up to reveal a pale-skinned woman with gold tattoos across her forehead. She bowed slightly. "Princess Azari." "I thought you were gone." Zira stepped forward, unsure. "Who are you?" "My name is Elif, former steward to your mother," the woman said. "I've been watching for your return." Leo leaned in. "How did you find us?" Elif smiled. "When you activated that scrambler, I caught the signal. It carried your crest's frequency. I followed it here," she added. "But you don't have much time." Zira narrowed her eyes. "Why?" "Because your name is no longer forgotten," Elif said seriously. "There are others who felt the signal too, those who want to see your blood spilled. You must reveal yourself publicly," Elif continued, "or they will paint you as a fake, a threat, a lie." Leo turned to Zira. "It's now or never." Zira looked down at the pendant in her hand, then at the chip in Leo's pocket. She nodded slowly. "We'll do it." Elif bowed again. "I'll prepare a secure broadcast." Then she paused and smiled gently. "And I see you carry the bond." Zira blushed. "It was not planned." Elif chuckled. "The best bonds never are." The screen went dark, and for a moment, the ship felt like it was holding its breath. Zira turned to Leo, her voice calm but strong. "Once we do this, there's no going back." Leo stepped beside her, placing a hand over hers. "I didn't plan to fall into this either," he said, "but I don't regret it." Zira looked up at him, a small smile breaking through her. "Worry? Then let's make the galaxy remember who I am." The ship floated in orbit near a quiet moon, far from any patrol routes or trade lanes. Brooke worked on securing the comms array while muttering to himself. Leo and Zira stood side by side in the small central chamber, where a holotransmitter sat ready to beam their message across space. Everything was prepared, except one thing: Zira's voice. Leo placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "You sure about this?" he asked. Zira nodded slowly, but her fingers trembled at her sides. "It's not fear," she whispered. "It's the weight of what's coming." Leo gave a small smile. "Whatever happens next, you won't face it alone," Brooke called from the cockpit. "Comms are live whenever you're ready, Princess." Zira stepped forward and stood on the transmitter pad. She looked at the camera, then down at the small pendant in her hand. Then she raised her head and began to speak. "My name is Azari of House Thelinis," she said clearly, "daughter of Queen Relif, survivor of the Royal Purge. For 10 years they erased my name, told the galaxy I was dead. I lived as a slave, a worker, a shadow until now." She held up the crest and the data chip. "These are not just symbols, they are truth. I call on all those who believed in peace, those who remember my family's legacy, and those who still believe in justice. Do not follow those who silence the truth. Stand with me." Instead, Leo watched in awe as her voice grew stronger. Even Brooke, who never cared for royalty, paused his tools to listen. This wasn't just a message, it was a spark. Zira continued, "To those who hunt me, know this: I am no longer hiding. If you want to silence me again, you'll have to face a galaxy that now knows I live." She ended the message with one sentence, spoken in her native tongue, a royal vow. The screen faded to black, the signal shot out into space, bouncing from relay to relay. Within minutes, every major network, private channel, and underground stream had picked it up, and just like that, the galaxy changed. Brooke clapped slowly. "Well, you've officially made history, Princess," Leo smiled. "And now the real fight begins." Suddenly the ship's alarm beeped. "Multiple ships inbound," Brooke warned. "One sending a diplomatic ID code." Zira stood, calm and ready. "Put them through." The screen blinked to life, showing a tall, thin man with silver hair and a long blue cloak. "I am Envoy Talis of the Interstellar Assembly," he said. "We received your message. We request a meeting to verify your claims and discuss your return." Zira nodded politely. "I'll meet with you, but not in secret." She added firmly, "Everything from this point on will be public." Teased nodded once. "Understood," and the screen went dark. But before anyone could celebrate, Brooke's voice dropped low. Problem," he said. "Other ships aren't diplomats, they're hunters." Leo rushed to the radar. "How many?" "Foreclosing in fast." Zira didn't hesitate. "We run," Brooke smirked. "Now you're speaking my language." As the ship powered up, the first enemy shot skimmed the side. Leo took the controls while Brooke manned the rear cannons. Zira stayed in the co-pilot seat, her hands ready on shields. The hauler shook violently as another blast hit the hull. "They're not trying to disable us," Leo muttered. "They're trying to destroy us." Zira's eyes narrowed. "They want to erase me before the truth spreads too far." But it was already too late. Across the galaxy, protests were rising. Voices shouting her name, former allies, rebels, even planets that once supported her family were speaking up. Izari was no longer a whisper in the dark, she was a symbol. Leo pulled the ship into a spin, dodging 2 incoming missiles. Brooke launched counterfire, hitting one of the enemy ships dead on. "That's 1 down," he grunted. 3 to go. Suddenly, another ship appeared out of hyperspace. This one didn't attack, it was marked with assembly colors. "This is Envoy Teased," a voice came through. "Stand down or face full diplomatic retaliation." The enemy ships hesitated, then turned and jumped away. Brooke sighed with relief. "Well, looks like you've got real backup now." As the quiet returned, Leo leaned back in his seat. Zira looked at him, her voice soft again. "You didn't just guess my name, Leo," she said. "You changed everything." He smiled at her. "Maybe you were waiting for someone to say it out loud." Zira leaned closer, eyes shining. "And now that you have, you're stuck with me." Leo grinned. "Good." Outside the ship, stars still burned, and danger still waited. But inside that little hauler, a new future had begun, not just for a lost princess, but for a human who dared to speak the name. No one else remembered. Together, they would shape a new story, one the galaxy would never forget.